Well, how about that for some intro music? Hello, everybody. It's me, John Dietz, CEO of Construct. I'm here with my CTO, Jared Edwards. Jared, it has been a long time since you've been on the show. How have you been, my friend?
Been really good. Busy as always, which keeps me out of these live streams and having all the fun.
Well, what on earth is keeping you busy? We don't do anything around here, do we?
I know. I just got back from the beach. So let's not lie.
All right.
Just kidding. But go ahead.
No, we have some whole bunch of exciting stuff keeping Jared off screen and keeping me and Fred highly available on the Kubefirst live show. But our buddy Fred is on a very, very well-earned break, and but don't worry, he will be back. In the meantime, Jared, thank you for being our very best highly available Fred alternative today. Today we have two guests that I'm just incredibly excited to have on the show, representing a project space that I've truly been a deep fan of for over half a decade now. Zach, Michael, welcome to the show. Can I ask you to introduce yourselves, starting with you, Michael?
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having us. So I'm Michael Crenshaw. I am on like my third year at Intuit now, as primarily an open source maintainer on the Argo project. My history with Argo actually goes back quite a bit further, to the early days of Argo Workflows and 2 different jobs ago. So I went from that job learning Argo Workflows. That sort of helped me break into a job where I was working with Zach, building CI pipelines with Argo Workflows. And then from that, Intuit heard about me, and now I do Argo CD full time, and feel very lucky to do so. So very excited to talk about Argo things today.
Very cool. Well, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. And Zach, could I ask you to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yep. My name's Zach Aller. I am at Intuit as well, coming on a little shy of 3 years now. Like Michael said, we worked together doing Argo Workflows stuff at previous companies. Came over to Intuit. Now I'm the lead of Argo rollouts, and have been doing platform type work for what seems like forever.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to the show to both of you. We, the Kubefirst live format, we regularly have guests on from that are involved in other open source projects. And some of those projects are projects that are maybe on our GitOps catalog, and kind of have an integration with Kubefirst in that capacity. Sometimes, it's not even a GitOps catalog product that we're talking about. It's just some cool tech that's kind of adjacent to us in the field that we want to get on screen. This particular episode is very much the opposite. To say we have deep integrations with Argo is a bit of an understatement. With the Kubefirst platform, and Zach, Michael, I know you guys probably are not as certainly as deeply familiar with Kubefirst as the 2 co-founders that share the show with you. For the whole audience and for your own understanding of what we're doing and the problems that we're trying to solve, we know that adoption of Kubernetes is hard, and we know that it takes time in an engineering shop to build up really good patterns, really good practices, to understand the CNCF suite of tools and options that are available to you in the space. We know that it takes time to work with those tools and learn those tools and figure out which ones fit well together and which ones don't, which ones are, and you start to build up this muscle memory as you're learning all this stuff of what real Kubernetes native looks like and feels like. And we're basically just trying to fast track that journey for everyone, so that any project, any company that is trying to run software on Kubernetes can do so effectively on minute 1 instead of 9 months down the road after you learn a whole bunch of tough lessons. So that's our mission at Construct, is just establishing those instant platforms. And when it's time to build a platform, you have a tough decision to make. There's a lot of ways to be right about building a platform. In fact, when Jared and I started building Kubefirst nights and weekends, it was just a simple bash script when we started out, and there were elements about this thing that would very implicitly and very CI style, Helm install stuff to Kubernetes clusters that we'd create with infrastructure as code, and then we'd have to build stuff in an implicit way. And then we would have to, kubectl apply stuff to those clusters. And then we discovered Argo CD, and it basically ruined our lives for a couple months. We had a really tough decision to make about, we saw the instant value that Argo CD and the GitOps discipline provides in a Kubernetes ecosystem because of the distributed power of Git and that muscle memory that all engineers have in their flow about how to make change, how to get a change reviewed. And then if you could extend that workflow directly into the state that's in your Kubernetes cluster, the light bulb went off and we realized that we were doing things the wrong way and had to rebuild the platform from the ground up. So we threw out 9 months of nights and weekends work and started over. I fell in love with Argo CD really, really deep. And we've really not looked back much.
No.
It's been such a stable product for us for so long. The release expectations have been a North Star to us as a company, just a company trying to also build an open source product like Kubefirst. We've long looked to the Argo project as the right way to do things. So congrats to you guys on just a really great product suite. But I think it's important to kind of break down some pieces of GitOps. Like, we're trying to build this opinionated, fast way to get your first management cluster, and then to have the tooling in that management cluster so that you can do everything else, whether it be build more infrastructure, build applications, add applications to your clusters, ship your apps that you're building to environments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have user concerns, you have secret concerns. And we're trying to get all of that encapsulated in a single shot. And GitOps is like the only way to do that. There are many ways to do that, but man, it just feels right. I don't know, Michael, I know you've been sort of involved in the Argo Workflows story for a really long time. And the Workflows story kind of filled this area that GitOps seems to leave out of the story, which is that whole environment promotion piece. It's just very intentional. Even unopinionatedly, if you went to Open GitOps and read the dissertation on how GitOps is supposed to work, there's just nothing about environments in there, and that's what everyone needs to know. So, Michael, I don't know if it's common to use Argo Workflows as that way to build and deliver to a dev stage prod environment for CI. That's how we use it at Kubefirst. But I just wanted to kind of get your take on your view on workflows and how that fits into CI and what other spaces Argo Workflows fits into.
Yeah, for sure. So my original experience with Argo Workflows was in the ML space, doing image recognition on satellite imagery, and it was really, really good at that. It does a great job of taking a massive set of work, breaking it down into small pieces and getting it done for you. But what it's also very good at is providing an intuitive way for people to chain actions together, build pipelines, and do so on top of the infrastructure that they're already familiar with, which is Kubernetes, hopefully, for the folks who dive into workflows. So Argo Workflows, in my opinion, is an excellent CI tool, like really, really good. Despite honestly having not dived too deep into trying to compete in that space, it's just already a great workflow engine and people use it for that. But to the GitOps side, GitOps does suffer from the problem of not really having a story about how to do environment promotion, and people have tried to fill in that story using Argo Workflows, just like they could use anything else that can run code, anything that you can imagine to do actions, make calls to Git, make YQ calls. It can be used for environment promotion, but that doesn't mean that it should. So GitOps is brilliant in that the story is you make a change in Git and then it just applies to the cluster. So your operations are done in Git. Where it falls down is sometimes you don't want it to apply right away and you don't want to have to sit there and babysit it. So we need something to span that time that you are promoting things through environments and not require you to sit there and be the one doing it.
Right. So how when there are shops that are trying to establish promotion from an environment to environment in a GitOps ecosystem, I feel like it's universally true. Maybe not, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but like the way we do our GitOps implementation is we'll have an application that's under development, something that we're building so that our end users can experience it eventually in a production environment. Basically we have, for each environment that we have a couple pre-production environments, and then we have a final production environment that we release to. And each one of those has its own distinct spot in our GitOps repository, so that our development instance of app one has a place for a container image. And then basically from a promotion standpoint, it's counterintuitive. You would think that like CI/CD is relatively simple and promoting stuff is the way that it's always worked, and doing it in GitOps feels like it should be harder. But when you think about what the action is that has to be done to promote, to build and promote a version of an app, building it is just building it and getting an image tag. And then if you can get that tag in that one instance for your development, then GitOps is just going to make that so. Do all of the promotional mechanics and all of the sort of CI tools that have to do CI promotion, is it always that same story? I know there's stuff with like application sets that kind of adds complexities and differences and nuances. There's customized versus Helm. Is it always the same story that like there's an instance and you have to update the image of the instance and that's how stuff goes?
Yeah, so there are kind of two camps of how to do promotions. There is the camp that has autosync enabled and the one that has it disabled. And obviously we're fans of the one that lets you enable autosync. And within that, there are kind of a number of philosophies about how to do that. So start with the one where you disable autosync. Make your changes in Git however you want. Maybe you have customized overlays to represent different environments. Maybe you have different Helm values files, or maybe you make all of the changes once in a single representation for all environments. And then you go and sync your Argo CD applications in order. Obviously, the problem with that is you're not really doing GitOps strictly anymore. You're doing Git plus click ops. And there are concerns that people forget to hit the button. People make changes in the UI that are unrelated and forget to fix them. It's really better if you can keep all of your changes in Git. So within the autosync on school of environment promotions, there's two basic philosophies. One is that you can express the state of each environment individually. So you have a customized overlay for each environment and you set the image tag in each one. So now you have to have tooling that goes through and bumps the image tag in order and does your git commit, does your git push, etc. So that's your Argo CD pipeline or Argo Workflows pipeline. The other side, and the side that Zach and I are trying to enable with new tooling, is the school of thought where autosync is on and the user expresses their intent exactly once. And then an external system does the hard work of moving that state through the stages and getting them out to your cluster via pull requests that are automated and open and closed in Git. And what this does for you is, since the user expresses their intent once, your system that does the promotion doesn't need to be aware of what you're changing. It doesn't care whether you're changing an image tag or bumping resource limits or updating to an entirely new Helm chart version in a dependency. It'll promote that for you. And you don't have to write some other tooling to go in and make those nitpicky changes one by one in the right order.
So I have immediate questions about that. And that's a really neat concept to be able to sort of declare the flow of an application's delivery through a sequence of environments. But how do you, what would you do for gating the promotion? Because like in our example with Metaphor, it's just kind of a sample CI that can build and then go, oh, okay, well, I'll just take this built thing and then boom, it's in dev. And then 1 minute later, boom, it's in stage, boom, it's in prod. And there's nothing to stop that flow of something hitting the main branch and then building and going boop, 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 all the way down the chain. And that's not real life. That's just a good example to see how you can promote GitOps. But in real life, you want something in between dev and stage. You want it could be a manual test. It could be a suite of unit and end-to-end tests. It could be any number of things, but something has to fit in there. How do you add that to a declarative flow through environments without getting into the business of what those things are?
Zach, I know you're excited to hop in for this one.
Sure. So basically, one of the main, most developers today that use some form of SEM, GitHub's a big one, GitLab's another big one. They all have the concept of declaring some checks against a commit SHA. So in GitHub, they call it like commit status. And it's usually those little green checks that you see on the open source projects, etc. So basically the gating mechanism for our promotion gets shifted into the SCM provider itself and whether the PR can be merged. We have internal representations within Kubernetes resources that act as a commit status, but you could also have external systems that just create the commit status in GitHub. It could be the GitHub action that does it. It could be some API call from another system. So on your repo, you could configure the number of approvers if you want it to be completely manual. You could have a commit status that checks whether or not you're in like a deployment freeze. And that's all going to gate the automated merging of the PR.
That's a really neat way to architect that. So that way, no matter what your criteria is, to allow that to proceed, as long as you're registering your desire of that being success criteria with your Git provider, then the system will just hook into that and lean on it for the allowance to proceed. That's super cool. I'm dying to see that. I feel like it would maybe be a good idea so that we all kind of have a good reality calibration. I know our audience is already somewhat familiar with what the Kubefirst platform does for promotion of Metaphor. If I could just real quick throw that on screen and throw a quick refresher out to the world. Boop. All right, and everybody's seeing my screen over here.
Yes, sir.
Kubefirst.kubefirst.tv, which is just a self-hosted stack that I stood up yesterday. Oh no, this is the wrong one. Let me go to kubefirst.cloud. We'll do that one. So let's do, we'll do a username login with Kbot. And when you get a Kubefirst install, you basically get some applications installed by default. And if you drop into your Argo CD instance here, you'll see that the number is going to vary depending on which cloud you're in. But For an AWS stack like this one, there's going to be 55 apps that are just in here running, presynced, ready to go out of the gate. And one of the applications that you'll find in here is a application that we delivered to a development, staging, and production environment called Metaphor. And Metaphor is just this really simple application that kind of demonstrates how you can do things in Kubernetes, specifically on the Kubefirst platform. So we have some opinions about like how to pull secrets out of Vault using external secrets operator, how to configure environment configurations that are not sensitive, and how to build containers, get those containers into charts, and deliver a chart to a development, staging, production environment. And the way that we have that wired up, basically we have, if we were to go to the Metaphor sample application repo that we give you when you do an install, we have it set up so that let me just make a change to the README as an example. So anytime anything in any file in the main branch changes, that's going to kick off a GitHub action just because the main branch changed. And that action is going to kick off a series of operations where it's going to do a publish, which is going to publish a Docker, OCI container and a Helm chart, and publish that Helm chart to a self-hosted chart museum. And then it goes through a series of development, staging, and release steps to get that new published version into the development, staging, and production environment. From a GitOps standpoint, if I go back to Kubefirst and drop into the GitOps repository, the way we have it organized is just in the registry, we have cluster tools that go in clusters and environment instances of apps that go in environments. And then we late bind the environment to the cluster, also using Argo CD. So we'll have a development Metaphor instance that just has an umbrella chart where we get to proactively set what this version is going to be. So right now it says BBA OB30. And if we were to look at that instance in Metaphor, it's that same version. So now that I've kicked off this other job here, this is going to produce a new image tag and a new release candidate of that chart. And it's going to start pushing that release candidate through the environments. And really all that it has to do once it builds that, that image is get to this very specific spot in this directory structure and update this value. Once this value is updated, Argo CD is set up in such a way that it is monitoring this particular directory. So any changes that happen to that, it's polling, I think, every 3 minutes. And whenever it sees that there's a different value in Git than the version that it thinks is in the Kubernetes cluster, it's going to try to proactively push that and report back if there was a problem. So that's how CI flows in the Kubefirst ecosystem. It's pretty straightforward. And this Metaphor example that we provide is really just like a simple application that happens to use, you know, Ingress Nginx so that you can show people how to gain access to services that run in your cluster. It's hooked into Cert Manager so you can see how to get TLS certs for your ingresses, and hooked into external DNS so that it automatically will create A records and bind them to your load balancers. It automatically uses external secrets operator the right way so that you can pull secrets out of Vault for your environment, and the same with configuration secrets. So that's like pretty much the whole story with how we do GitOps for apps that need to be built and delivered to an environment. But we use workflows for like a whole bunch of other stuff too, internal to Construct. Like it's not just for delivery of individual apps, sometimes we're using it for more comprehensive things. Like right here, you can see, in fact, I think I can I bring this up? Yeah. Sorry, let me go grab this, copy it, and I'll submit a new one here. So this is a new workflow that if I just drop this rather small bit of workflow code in here, this is going to invoke a Argo workflow end-to-end test suite. Kubefirst, we have this daunting challenge of being able to support every cloud in the world. And so in order to test our platform, it means that we have to build Kubernetes clusters in AWS and GCP, DigitalOcean, Azure, Akamai, you name it, right? Sivo. And testing all of that is just a bit of a problem for us. So we use Argo Workflows for end-to-end testing as well, where you can just submit a tiny little workload set like this, and it's going to go through and pull our Kubefirst binary, build it fresh off a branch if it needs to, and then go through the operation of building out clusters in all these different clouds and being able to report to us on a regular basis. Like, you know, sometimes we'll find out that a cloud provider just dropped support of a particular Kubernetes version, and like, we don't want to find out about that kind of stuff from the field. We want to know about it proactively. So we use Argo Workflows in a lot of different ways in that capacity as well, from an end-to-end testing. It's not just for GitOps environment promotion, but for our end users. Ooh, don't do that. For our end users, they're mostly using our GitOps and Argo Workflow kind of CI story for that. So sort of with that context in mind, what I would love to do is dive a little bit deeper into the GitOps Promoter that you guys have been working on, because I know there's like this whole gap in the space. There's a gap in the way that the GitOps discipline is defined. We've tried to fill that gap a little bit by putting some workflows together and just like making them available so you can copy what we were just showing you on screen there. I know Acuity has kind of been inching into this part of the space too with their open source cargo implementation. I'm dying to know what you guys have done. You've made so many great tools. We've leaned on so many of them for so long. Can we just sort of get your pitch on the GitOps Promoter and how it works and how you're solving that problem? We've
got pitch, which I can bring, and then Zach, we've got demo, which is always risky, but hopefully we can show it off. Yeah. So the basic pitch is we bring all the opinions to your GitOps environment promotion strategy so that you don't have to. That workflow that you showed, I'm sure it does a great job. At the same time, it does have to know your directory structure. It needs to know where to find that chart.yaml, where to add the SHA to the end of the chart version. And then you have to code it into a pipeline that knows, you know, when to promote to the next stage. Yep. We want to take some of those opinions away and say, okay, if you set your things up like this, the system just works, and we can do the jobs of opening pull requests, moving your files from a staging environment to a live environment, et cetera, et cetera. So with that said, I think we can get Zach to dive into the demo.
Yeah, I can, and we can scatter about some reasonings and stuff behind here. Let me get my screen share up.
And while he's doing that, one of the main philosophical things we wanted to achieve was kind of what you alluded to at the beginning. People like GitOps because they're already in GitHub. They know how to use it, GitLab, et cetera. We wanted to take as full advantage of all the capabilities of SCMs and developers' familiarity with them as possible. So you'll notice a lot of stuff that happens with our system isn't in our system. It's actually in the SCM.
All right.
All right. So Where should we start? Let's start with a little bit of an overview of just how our directory structure is configured. Now, this doesn't really matter for the concepts of promotions, but it's just useful to describe the environments. We use customize in this example where we have a base directory that anything changed here would change any of the environments. We have our development overlay, which has a single application in it. We have our staging environment, which has ETE and an integration, basically 2 different environments, and production that has US East and US West. That's just kind of the high level overview. One of the first things that I think is worth mentioning is part of the promoter relies on a hydration pattern. So there was a new feature that's super alpha in Argo CD that allows Argo CD to hydrate its changes. So today what people are used to is Argo CD will output Helm, do a Helm template, etc., and output it to the same branch that it's syncing from. Mm-hmm. We've given Argo CD the ability to basically detach that and kind of becoming called like the hydration pattern. So we tell Argo CD to hydrate its output from the dry side, which is what we call our like master branch, or where people end users would work, to a staging area of like development next. And then the sync source is where it is what it's actually syncing. So we have auto sync turned on, and it's actually going to sync from this particular branch, and in this particular case, the root path.
Zach, can I interrupt real quick and ask you to just zoom in maybe
two
shots for the audience? Thank you so
zoom
much.
In there.
That's great. Thank you.
I'll do the same thing over here.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. So for staging, we have a very similar pattern, except you'll see because there's 2 environments, we just have an extra directory that matches the directory in the repo. So at a high level, let's just go quickly. I'll quickly just make a change to, let's do green. I'll make a change to in the base directory in our customization. We'll just call it bump, and we'll push this. Now, what the GitOps Promoter is working on promoting is the entire defined state on the master side. So you configure every environment in one commit how you want each basically environment to look, right? And then the promoter will work on actual time gating that and promoting it based off of various checks that we'll talk about. So I'll push this change, go back to Argo CD, and we'll see that Argo CD will basically hydrate this change. And what that means is that in our repo, in our development next branch, we will see the output of customized build get saved here. The promoter, we'll see it's already starting to happen. The promoter now notices that there's a change between development next and the currently synced environment. And so it starts opening PRs for each of these environments. We should eventually get 3 PRs. I should actually take one quick step back and look at how we define environment ordering. So this application has our promotion strategy resource in it, and this defines our environments which correlate to our branches within Git. It's a real simple.
I'll jump in to say that we're extremely proud of how short this YAML file is. There's not much to tune.
It's basically a list of branches which correlate to environments in Git. So we're going to do development first, we're going to do staging, and then production. We have a list of active commit statuses. We'll talk about this. This is basically the gating mechanism, and currently this correlates to Argo CD's health state. Is the previous environment according to Argo CD healthy before continuing to merge the next higher level environment.
Right.
So we've basically compared development here to dev next, and we saw that we ended up creating a pull request in GitHub, which we see here. And it has some nice facts. We'll say that we're promoting this here is the dry commit. So this is the commit on the master branch, saying that we want to promote that, the configuration defined in that package to the environment development, any application that lives within that environment. It can be one application, it can be multiple applications like we do for staging and production, etc. We'll see that in Argo CD, we've basically abstracted the SCM's concepts of a pull request and a commit status. So this pull request here correlates to that development environment. So I can actually come into here and merge this pull request, and you'll see that within GitHub, it merged that change. And that change was basically my bumping of the image. So what's happening now, because autosync is on, this is going to kind of move pretty quick here. We'll see that Argo CD started syncing this app, right?
Yep.
Now, if I quickly go over and look at staging is currently being blocked by the previous environment development because it's not synced and healthy, because it's currently, doing its thing. Once that becomes healthy over here, because that is the only check that we have configured on our promotion strategy, the promoter will basically make that green, and in a second later, we're now promoting staging.
Excuse me, real quick, and it was the promoter responsibility to automatically merge that pull request at the point once the criteria was met.
Correct, and the criteria in this case is defined via Argo CD's healthy state. So basically, does Argo CD think it's healthy? But it could be anything.
Yeah.
So today, there's this Argo CD commit status type, which basically just groups apps. And we have this commit status CR, which anybody can create. This can be a system that's external to Promoter or whatever. It could be some internal business rules. It could be driven by Argo Workflows and a unit test that's ran that says, is the particular SHA that's wanting to be deployed, does it meet some criteria, right? It creates this with the SHA and whether or not the phase is successful, pending, or failed. And that will correlate to creating a check in GitHub. You could also decide to not use commit status, the CR within Kubernetes, and just have like a GitHub action report a status. It can be pretty much any system, because you can set rules on the SCM, GitHub in this case, that says this PR cannot be merged unless these commit statuses have been met.
Yep.
And the promoter can't override those settings. So one of the things you could do is, for production, you could actually have human intervention where you have to have some reviewers go actually approve the PR in GitHub in order for the promoter to automatically merge that, along with any other checks that are configured via, Argo CD's health status, unit tests, etc., from previous level environments.
Right on.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is super cool. Not to devolve into more products, but I have to know what you're thinking in terms of this tool and integrating it with Argo rollouts. It seems like they're both sort of different angles. Would it be right to sort of comprehend that your rollout is eventually going to impact, for example, the Argo CD end state of an application, and so as long as that application state is a gate for moving something forward, then you can roll out, you can not roll out. It doesn't really matter as long as you're triggering your continuation based on some set of criteria that the SCM knows about.
So there are two. So with what we just demoed today, with it being gated on Argo CD's concept of healthy with rollouts, they're completely independent. They're basically happening at different levels. So Argo rollouts operates on a single environment, and it basically does canarying of traffic. It shifts over smaller percentage, let's say like staging, right? Or some lower level production environment that maybe you have some like swim lane system. If Argo rollouts aborts that particular environment, it's actually going to make Argo CD's app go degraded. And that's going to cause the blocking of any higher level environments from being able to be merged based on the fact that the healthy icon here is now in a degraded state based off of Argo CD's Lua scripts that determine whether or not an app is healthy.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it also folds in like post-sync hooks. So if you have a post-sync hook that fails, that'll be surfaced up as failed to sync. So the GitOps Promoter, by relying on Argo CD Health, basically provides a ton of different ways to tie in your opinion about what healthy means for your application in a declarative way, instead of being in a pipeline where you have some code that's like trying to discern from JSON blobs what the health of your environment is.
Right. That's really neat. I'm trying to. It seems like this is almost a drop-in replacement for a lion's share of what Kubefirst today is doing in workflows for that CI delivery workflow. The parts of it that fall outside of the promoter, if I understand things right, is the container build itself. That's outside the scope, the Helm publish, and anything related to versioning of Helm charts is also out of scope. You're literally just trying to get whatever that entity is as an application and getting that promoted through your series of GitOps directories based on some declarative scaffolding. And that declaration, where does that declaration go? Is that typically in the microservice app repo that would live, or is it in the GitOps repo?
Yeah, it's in, well, there's a handful of ways. So it has to be, so generally this becomes an aggregate of applications. So how it's set up here is we have a new Argo CD app that's called like promotion strategy. And this basically automatically includes the management of all these other applications, right? You could vend that out. There's a handful of ways you can do that. This gets a little bit into like talking about abstractions of whether or not end users should manage this versus platform teams, whether you abstract the API or not. But in this simple case where you have a small team, like vending this out into the deployment repo that you have currently in a directory that ends up becoming your Argo CD app, is probably a fine way for a small to mid-sized team.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we talked at the beginning about how GitOps, there's some unanswered questions in the GitOps ecosystem. In my opinion, environment promotion is the biggest one, but another one is self-service of the GitOps enabling things like an application CR or a promotion strategy CR. And everyone has different ways of doing that. Apps in any namespace in Argo CD has become a popular way to enable self-service. But yeah, honestly, however you get your applications deployed for your developers is probably also how you'll get your promotion strategy deployed for your developers.
Right on. What do you have in terms of like future plans for the promoter? Like, are there areas that that it's not quite appropriate for yet while it's still being built? Do you feel like it's perfectly, I know it's a labs project, but should we feel like it's mostly ready to go for most shops that need to just get a container image and a directory in a GitOps repo?
It's pretty new. I would say it's not ready. We're trying to get it rolled out into it, but it's definitely in a very alpha-y state.
Okay.
We obviously are looking for feedback and looking for teams to want to work and try to contribute and try to run it and work with us to get there, but it's definitely very early.
Right on. You may have just found some folks to work with. It's a really neat angle to take on the on the problem space. Like everyone that's a GitOps shop became a GitOps shop because of the desire for that desired state, because of the need to declare what it is that you want out of your platform. And this particular piece of tech like solves the declarative nature of a rather implicit problem right now, you know.
I'll mention too, and maybe Michael wants to talk. Do you want to talk a little bit about like kind of previewing and a different view for Argo CD, Michael?
Yeah, so I can talk about some features that will hopefully complement this over time. One feature is we know that the GitOps ecosystem badly needs a change preview tool. So everyone's using Helm, customized some type of inflation tool that can obscure the change that you're actually making. And the classic example is, I want to bump a dependency Helm chart version, but I don't really know unless I go do all this stuff on my local CLI and then copy and paste the diff into the PR review comments. And then someone else maybe wants to verify that. And by the time they're reviewing my PR, things have changed and the diff is different anyway. So that's a massive problem in the GitOps ecosystem. Folks have done great jobs building GitHub Actions, Argo Workflows tools, et cetera, to build those diffs. It should be a first-class Argo CD feature because it is such a necessary component in any GitOps workflow. And the way that will ease this experience is when I go to make a change and I want it to apply to multiple environments, I'm taking a risk. I'm taking a risk that my customized overlays are set up the way that I think they are, that my Helm values files are overlaid the way that I think they are. And it's hard for me to smash merge until I've seen a preview. So with a preview tool, that'll all become available to you within the PR review experience. So that's one piece. A couple other features we want to enable are a nice UI experience for promotion strategy and a nice rollback experience. So people are used to seeing dev stage prod sort of in a line, in a UI to explain to them, here's what's deployed, here's what's currently being deployed. And that view should be very easy to construct because as I think Zach's showing here, we've got all that information in the status field of this CR. All we have to do is create a UI that automatically updates and shows you what the state of your deployment is. And then if we layer on a tool that recognizes a degradation in a service and opens a PR on your behalf to revert the change in the problematic environment, you could manage that all through the UI. Like you saw Zach smash the merge button through the Argo CD UI. You could do that through another UI mechanism that presents your whole service in all of its environments, not just a single application.
That's really neat.
So hopefully some Argo CD plugin extension that basically shows you Argo promotion strategies in a view that is more encompassing of, you know, a promotion strategy managing multiple environments.
Right on. And in a scenario where like there was an end-to-end test that needed to be executed in between the development and staging. There you go.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna break the basically do a deployment where I break the image before it continues to the next environment just so people can see it working.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically I pushed a change. We should hopefully get some hydrations here and get some new PRs. You'll see the PRs are basically coming up. And what I will do is I will real quickly hydrate. All right, so we have our 3 PRs. I'm gonna go into here and the reason I have to start it, so just for context, I set auto merge to false on the very first environment, which basically means I have to manually merge it to start the process, and that's just for demoing and talking. But generally, the lowest level environment would auto merge because there are no previous environments. So I'll merge this PR or this first PR, and then what I'll do is I'll go to E2E staging and I'll real quickly edit one of the images to just be like bad.
For folks who are watching the demo and they see that error message pop up at the bottom right, that's just because I'm bad at UI development. It's a bug. We'll fix it.
So development's going out now, and we have our we've merged that PR. Staging is now basically going to never merge. Or sorry, did I break? I don't even know what I broke anymore. Sorry, I broke.
I think you broke
before.
stage.
I broke stage early, so it'll actually probably override my change, and then I got to go re-break staging. I just broke it too soon, basically. Okay, so staging merged, but now production is waiting. However, staging will never, it'll never, if I did it right, I'm a little bit worried I didn't save something. Red, bad.
And you're just trying to reference an image that doesn't exist, right?
Doesn't exist, yeah. So hopefully I can catch it. Why is it not red?
It's got to go to the progress deadline exception, right?
Yeah, it should just try to create it now. So image bold. So basically one of my apps in staging broke. There's two apps in staging. There's E2E staging and integration staging.
Yep.
E2E staging completely rolled out because those two apps were in the same environment and it's healthy. But let's say the unit test or something, in this particular case, it was a bad image. It can be anything that basically breaks the Argo CD concept of healthy.
Yep.
Will basically this production PR now will never merge until that gets fixed. And we'll be obviously doing some little bit better reporting, having some timeouts in here, and the switch to failed, etc. for just UI experience, or the new UI within Argo CD could show this in a more holistic view. But that's basically the gating mechanism, and so now prod is protected from this for whatever broke the previous environment.
Right on. And not to bring up edge cases in a live demo, I have to ask that if the let's say that there was a CI test that was just like a Cypress test or something that an organization was using in order to do verification of an environment, but that CI execution is not part of a GitOps workflow. It's just like maybe it's a Jenkins job, or it could be anything. And that job executes, and it executes and fails a condition in GitHub. And you look at the test results and you're like, that's just a flaky test. It was fine. Yeah. How do you, is there a mechanism to kind of convince the SCM, like, I know it's failed, but please let this flow through anyway?
You can always go into the SCM if you have admin permissions or however your repo is configured to basically smash merge here.
Gotcha.
So this repo has no requirements on, like, this isn't from the SCM's perspective, this isn't a required check, so it just gives me a normal merge.
Yeah.
But I could add some extra settings to the repo to make various checks required, and then I would need, either repo admin permissions or be in some different group within the SCM to basically be able to smash merge minus the bad checks.
Loud and clear. Right?
That's the
proper.
That's the beautiful thing about these PRs. There's nothing magical about them. It's just a PR.
Yeah.
And you use all of your familiar GitOps or Git SCM practices to interact with this system.
And you can see that this PR is going to affect these two environments. You can see what the diffs are. You can see that this was hydrated from this dry SHA. So I could go look at master and know that this particular hydration came from a well-known SHA, because the package we're promoting is basically a commit SHA from the master branch.
Right on, right on. Well, that is a really neat demo and a cool piece of tech. I think it's certainly worth some spiking and experimentation with. And I think you guys are doing it right. The angle where you lean on the SCM's understanding of success criteria, I think just offloads a ton of burden of that problem you're trying to solve in a really sharp way. Look at my backup MC coming through. Well done, Jared.
Had to do something in here.
No, that's great. So did you guys have anything else that you wanted to get on screen? I feel like you walked us through the tech exceptionally well, but I don't want to cut you short either if there's other stuff you wanted to showcase.
I think we're good. The demo itself is underwhelming in a way because it's very minimal what we show you, but so much just works that there's really not that much to show, which I think is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, no, I think frankly, anytime the explanation doesn't require much, it should be a really good indication that you're on the right track. I should probably learn a lesson or two about that when trying to take on the cloud native industry. But thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. I think the GitOps Promoter is a very neat new labs project. I'm glad to I had an opportunity to show it to our audience a little with the pros showing us how it works. To boot, you can't do much better than that.
No way.
This is the part of the show where usually Fred has a really awful dad joke, and I'm underprepared. Jared, do you have any? If you don't have a dad joke, I think we need to just like ask Claude real quick. Give me 1 second.
I know. I thought about that about 10 minutes ago. I was like, no, I don't have a joke. I bet John doesn't have a joke. Fred's gonna be so disappointed in us.
All right, let's do. Give me a bad dad joke about GitOps. You guys ready?
Oh man, I'm ready.
Do it.
Why did the GitOps engineer bring a ladder to work?
Okay.
Tell us.
I have no idea.
Because they heard everything needed to be elevated to production.
Wow. Topical.
Oh, that was topical.
Relevant.
That was good.
Man, you know.
Yeah, for the win.
I heard AI was coming for our jobs. I didn't know they were coming for our bad dad jokes jobs too. That's just bad news. But Michael, Zach, really can't thank you enough for coming on. It's an honor to have you. Frankly, we've been studying the Argo project forever, and are big fans of everything that you guys do. And to have you on our show is really a milestone moment for us. So thanks for coming in, and really cool work on the GitOps Promoter stuff too. We're going to be certainly digging into that over the coming quarter and figuring out the right ways to collaborate with you guys if it seems like the right key for our solution. So, but anything that you guys might like to share, any promotions, any events, anything like that you want to get on camera before we wrap it?
We have 2 ArgoCon talks that we've given that are both titled beginning with Space Age GitOps. So give that a Google if you're interested in learning more. And if you want to chat with us, there is a CNCF Slack channel called Argo GitOps Promotion. We have nothing to sell, just want to chat about ideas.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys for coming in. It's been a pleasure. And to our audience, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a great couple of weeks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.